spikes or trend graphs are really helpful to spot any spikes or peaks. So you can see here our cost of goods sold really dropped, and we'll have to look into that later to see what's going on there. But that was just another important thing that we could point out, that you can pop up these trend graphs on any of these metrics. All right. So that being said, Charles, can we go to the next polling question?
Sure. I'll put it up here. Okay. Do you have it up on the screen too, Dean? Or do you want to put it up?
Let me see if I can bring it up. Yeah,
That's
hold
fine.
on.
Just what's your biggest challenge when analyzing business data? Identifying trends quickly, breaking free from saved searches Excel, linking finance, sales, and operations data. It should pop up on your screen.
Yep, I see it there.
Looks like pretty even between the bottom two, breaking free from saved searches Excel. I actually thought that was going to be number one, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And linking finance, sales, and operations data was actually number one by a slight 13 to 15 edge. And
Okay.
identifying trends quickly was not even in the conversation, barely.
All right.
Alrighty. All right, cool. So I just ended the poll. Sweet.
All right. Thanks, Charles. Thanks everybody for participating on those, especially if you're looking to get some CPE credit. We'll keep moving now. So up next, we're going to get into analytics and analytic workbooks. So the first use case that we're going to do is hopefully a simple one, but should be effective to most businesses, tracking three financial metrics: revenue, cost of goods sold, gross profit, and being able to see those all interlaid together on a pivot chart is what we're going to do for our first example. So to do that, we'll get started by creating a data set. So if you come here to analytics, then you should see the option for there's workbooks and data sets. We're going to start with the data set. So we'll click new data set. And then this is going to be a transaction data set. So we can actually type transaction up here and you see it starts filtering down the list. And here's our transaction data set right here that we'll click on to get started. So this basically will put you into the data set builder where you can start dragging
Dean,
and drop.
you're
Yes.
not sharing screen.
I'm not sharing screen.
Oh wait, no. There we
Can you
go.
guys can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep. Now we can.
Okay, I'll go back really quick. So if you go to analytics, new data set, we want a transaction data set. You could try searching for transaction and it filters down the list. And then you can click on transaction here. Um, Once that's loaded, you can basically start building out your transaction data set. I like to save it before I do too much work, right? So to get that going, so you'll hit save. We can give this a name, call this V3. SN, MC. This will be our rev, COGS, and gross profit. Okay, and then we'll hit save. So now I have this data set saved, and then we're going to start adding some columns and fields into this baseline data set. So the first one that we want to add is the account type. So there's all these folders in here. You do got to kind of give it a little bit of practice. Eventually, you'll figure out where to pull stuff from. But we're going to go down into our transaction lines. So if you click on this folder, we're in the transaction line. And let's see, just want to make sure. Yeah, click on it. See, if you expand the transaction line folder, then you further see transaction accounting line. And we want to go into that folder. And from here, we're going to drag over two fields, the account type. So you just drag and drop it over. So here's the account type. Now you see it's, the different account types. And then we are going to bring over the accounting line amount. So this amount field will drag over as well. And then now you see that starting to take shape and populate. Okay, so we got those two fields added. Next, we want to actually add the account type to our filter as well. So I'm going to drag it from here also up into the filter icon or section, and it pops up in this filter account type. Because we want to basically look at revenue, cost of goods sold, and gross profit, we are going to grab our income account types and our cost of goods sold account types and hit apply. So now you see I have a filter here pulling in that. And then the next thing that we'll want to do is we'll want to filter down our data set for only posting transactions, right? In NetSuite, there's a lot of non-posting transactions that would still be in a transactional data set, like a sales order is a non-posting, but an invoice is a posting. We want stuff that hits the GL and the general ledger, so we're going to want posting is true. So for that one, we can just go up to the header level in the transaction folder and then scroll down until we find the field for posting, alphabetically get down, and here's a field for posting. So we'll add that to our filter region and just say yes and apply. So now I'm filtering my data set down further based on criteria, right? Just the account types that I want and the posting that I want. Once that's good, I'm just going to save this really quick. So we're saving our work as we go. Next up, we're going to create some formula fields that we can easily use when we go to create our pivot chart. So to start creating a formula field, you click on the little formula section here, and then you have the option to put in a new formula. So click the new formula button. And for this, we are basically going to give it a name of income. And we're going to change the type to float. And then we're going to use a case win formula here to kind of help us get what we want. So we're going to say case win, and then I'm going to click on the account type, double click so it puts it in here. So when the account type is equal to single quote income, close single quote, then I want to grab the amount for that. So double click on the amount field here. Else zero end. So this is a basic case win formula. It's kind of like an if statement in Excel. Because the natural sign of revenue is negative, I want for my reports for it to show up as positive. So I'll actually just put a negative. I'll kind of like put a minus sign in front of this to convert it from a negative to show as a positive. But once you have a formula in there, you can use this validate button to see if it's a valid formula. You get the little green checkbox here, and that's how we know it's a valid formula. So we'll hit save. Now I can see my new custom formula that we just built, and I can drag that over into my data set. And now you can see I have revenue showing up. You see only the income rows have it, whereas the cost of goods sold rows don't. And you see it showing as positives, whereas over here it was showing as negative. So this is kind of how we're kind of manipulating the data to be in a format that we want. So then next up, we'll add cost of goods sold. Same way, hit new formula. Again, we'll call this cost of goods sold. The type we want is float. This is going to be very similar. So case when the account type is equal to single quote cost of goods sold and single quote. Then we want the amount, else zero end. And because this is an expense, it's already a positive number. We don't need to change the sign of it. And we'll validate it. That looks good. Save. Can now drag that field over. So we got our income and we got our cost of goods sold. So far, so good. So now we have our data set. I'm going to save it. And we can actually proceed to creating our pivot table. So to do that, there's a button right here where you can create a new workbook right from this data set. We'll go ahead and click on that. And we're going to create a pivot chart. So click on the chart icon. And then now we could just start building this out like you would in Excel, right? So when we said if you don't want to have to do all this stuff in Excel, a lot of people are still taking down financial reports and data into Excel and manually building pivot tables and pivot charts. You can do this right within NetSuite without ever having to go to Excel. Very similar type setup and use. So what we'll do is we'll add our date to our x-axis, and I'm going to change it instead of year. If you click on these three dots, I'll change it to be displayed by month instead. And then next up, we just want to add in our custom metrics that we created to our measures. So I'll add income, and then we can add our cost of goods sold here. And then, if the goal is to be able to spot trends or see trends, maybe I'll change the chart type to a line chart. And then we can go ahead and save this workbook and give it a name. Okay, and hit save. And then you have to hit, when you're building these things out, you may have to hit the refresh icon from time to time to see, like it looks like nothing's happened, right? We just did all this stuff and nothing's happened. You got to hit the refresh icon here from time to time just to see your changes take effect. But just like that, we're starting to have a trend graph of our income and our cost of goods sold. And we can continue to dial this in a little bit more. We're going to add our gross profit measure as a calculated field rather than a field that we created. So you can create a calculated measure here. I love this feature. This part's really basic, just using like basic operator math stuff. So we'll give this a name, call it gross profit. And we could basically, that's just simple math. Take my income, right? Subtract it from my cost of goods sold. And then that's basically my gross profit. Hit apply and then refresh. Now I got gross profit showing up on my report, right? I got my income, I got my cost of goods sold, I got gross profit. And then another thing that we can do here is we can rename our chart so that when we want to find it later, it's not just called chart one. So if you click the three dots and rename it, we could give it a name. So this is Rev, COGS, GP, Pivot. All right. And then we can also add a date filter because right now this is just pulling, I think, all time. It's not really filtered down. So we can click on our date field, add a filter here, go to advanced, go to date ranges, select year, and maybe I just want to see my, this over this fiscal year to date and apply and then refresh. Now I'm only looking at this year's to dates, revenue, cost of goods sold, and gross profit. So this is just another example. Again, trend graphs are helpful because it helps you spot things right away. Like something's clearly going on here that my gross profit is higher than my cost of goods sold, and my cost of goods sold is tanking this month. We'll take a look into that later, but something must be wrong or not right, right? And then usually we want it, once we have this saved, we can add this to our home dashboard pretty easily now. So if you right click, bring up your basic NetSuite, homepage, you can add these in by personalizing, adding in an analytic, and then you can just basically search for the one that you just created. If we look for pivot chart, and then you can search by name. Here is the pivot that we just created, and save. Now that pivot table or pivot chart will show up right on your home dashboard without you ever having to leave. So you can see real-time data how you're doing. So that was just a good starter example. We're going to get into a more complex example next. But Charles, before I do, maybe just quick check in on how we're doing, if there's any questions.
We had one question. This was pretty early, but it was just how do you know which data set to use? Or you
Yeah,
had a
that's a good
question.
question. Hopefully, it's a simple answer. Similar to if you were using saved searches, most financial data, you're going to want to go down to a transaction level. So usually, whenever you're doing anything with numbers, whether it was a saved search or whether it was a data set, you're going to probably need a transactional data set. The example that we're about to show next is going to show how we can take transactional data as one data set and then take some other data for a project. We can go to the work breakdown structure data set, and we're going to join those two data sets together to create a picture. So that's what we're going to show next. But to answer the question, generally speaking, if you're dealing with numbers, it's going to be a transaction data set. If you were trying to create a customer type, report or pivot table, you'd probably create a customer data set. Just kind of goes with the type of record structure that you would be trying to query on. Customers, I'd probably be doing a customer data set. Vendors, I'd probably be doing a vendor data set. Employees, it'd be employee data set, right? But the real thing is most people generally want to crash that data back with transactional data at some point. So that's kind of where it lands. All right, good question. Any other questions?
I don't see anything else. Is everyone, are you guys trying to build this as we go along? Is that helpful? Kind of pausing in between? Is that helpful for you guys if you want to put in the chat? Or is anyone trying to kind of do this as we go, or are you just kind of taking in the information? Because we can kind of slow down. We're trying to add more pauses if people are trying to actually like do it with us. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Okay.
Okay, cool. I will say, I know we're going fast, and I know that was some of the feedback. The goal is to try to show and get through as much of the content as possible. Again, we do share the recordings and the links afterwards, so you can go at your pace, fast forward the video, slow down the video, do all that. That's kind of the intent. But to Charles's point, I think some feedback is we're just going so fast that it might be going, not helpful. So definitely want to balance that here, but that being said, you'll get a link to the PowerPoint that has the step-by-step screenshots and instructions as well. So kind of trying to find that balance or that sweet spot of not going too fast or not going too slow to fit in enough content.
And real quick, Sylvia had a question. What if we also need a freight column?
If you need a freight column, freight would possibly be, that might be where you can, the same way that we did a formula for if it was income, you could probably create a formula that will further look at if it's maybe a GL account that you have your freight going through. So you could kind of use the same tactics and repurpose them for different types of variables that you might want. Okay. And then lastly, like I said, any good accountant would probably want to make sure, how do I even know if this is right? Right? I'm not about to show this to my executives and be like, you're tripping. There's no way that we're losing money or making money. The source of truth is to tie it out to an income statement. So we'll run a quick income statement, financial income statement. Ooh, change this year to date. We'll change the columns to month and then refresh. So just a quick tie out, our revenue for May is 4.4,942,000. Over here, if I hover over our metric, income 4,942,000. Our cost of goods sold is 230,000. If I hover over cost of goods sold, it's 230,000. And then our gross profit calculated is 4.7 million. Come over here, hover over gross profit, 4.7 million. So I can feel good that the data that I'm putting on a dashboard or sharing with my management team or executive team better be sourced or tied out to, a good source of truth. So that being said, I think we're good there. Now we're going to get into the more complex example where we're going to link data sets. The request for this actually came from one of our clients. So, we're going to look at project profitability, and we're going to basically compare project actuals against project budget. And that's going to leverage using a transactional data set and then looking at a work breakdown structured data set, crashing those together and putting them on a pivot table. So that's what we're about to do right now. So to get started with there, the good news is I don't have to start from scratch. I already have a transactional data set that we just did, right? So I'll take that one as a starting point and save that as a copy. So let's see here. We go back into this workbook where we had our transaction data set. I'm going to go ahead and open that data set. So now I'm back into here, but I'm going to just save as to create a copy. So save as, and then we can rename this. This is going to be D3SN, let's see, MC. And we'll call this project profitability. Okay. And save. Now we'll have to add in and update this data set a little bit to get what we want. So the first thing that we'll need on here that's not in here yet is we'll need the project segment itself. So to do that, if we go into transaction line, transaction accounting line, further come down into the entity folder, you'll see here's for the project. And the field that we want is called the full name of the project. So it's right here, full name. So I'll just drag that over into our data set. And now you see I got some project data showing up in my data set. And then up next, we'll want to update our filter to include the rest of the P&L, because the last one we did, we're just filtering for income and cost of goods sold. If we want true project profitability, we should probably look at the entire P&L, right? So go ahead and click in here to edit it, and we can add in our remaining P&L types, account types. So we'll want to add over expenses, we'll want to add over other expense, and we'll want to add over other income. So I believe that pretty much is all of the P&L account types. Everything else you see is more the balance sheet. So we'll go ahead and hit apply to have that take effect. And let's go ahead and save this data set now. So we should have that saved. So cool. So I got my project profitability data set. Next, to get our project budget data, that's not at a transaction level. That's over on a work breakdown structure record in NetSuite. So we're going to create a new data set for that. So if we go to our analytics, data sets, we're going to hit the create a new data set here. Again, if you're trying, you can scroll through all the different topics to see that what's available to kind of create reports on. But since I know what we're looking for, I'm going to just type work, and you see immediately it shows there's a work breakdown structured data set available. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and then we'll start kind of filling this out with what we want. I'm going to save it before we do too much work. Call this V3, SN, MC. All right, so we got that saved, and we're going to add in some fields now. So I want to be able to link, I need to find the common field to link the project profitability data set with this work breakdown structure data set. You'll recall that we use the full name of the project on our other one. So I want to kind of go to the project folder here, scroll down. Here it is, full name. So I have that as well. So we can go ahead and drag that in. So that will be how I can kind of link, based on project name, the two data sets together. So we got that added in. Next, we want to go into our work breakdown structure, and we'll go into the lines. And if you see, if I expand this folder, we want to go into the amounts folder, and we're going to add over two two fields or two columns. We want the amount type. Let's add the amount. So this is the amount field, estimate at completion. And then we will add in the type. So it's showing you here whether or not it's revenue or cost on your work breakdown structure. So once we have that, I'm going to go ahead and save our data set. Okay. So I have our two separately independent data sets. We have our transactional, which is our actuals for, has the projects in it. We have our budget, which is this work breakdown structure, has our projects in it. We're gonna try to create some formula fields that can also be used to join the data sets together, so we can easily put them on a pivot table later and kind of start to look at some of what the picture looks like. So the first couple fields that we're going to add is we're going to create revenue, cost, and then a category field that will kind of help us join these data sets together. So let's start by adding the first one. We click on our formula section here, click on the new formula, and we are going to call this revenue. Again, we'll change this to a float type. And this is kind of similar to what we did earlier. So the formula will be case when the account type here, the type is equal to single quote revenue, close single quote. Then grab the amount field here by double clicking, else zero end. Now, I want to show our budgeted revenue as a negative so that we can compare it to our actuals as a positive and net them out and see how we're tracking budget versus actual. So I will put a negative sign. I'll wrap this in a negative so you'll see that demonstrated later. We'll click validate to make sure that's a good formula. It is, and then we'll save it. Once we have our field, we can drag it over, right, to our data set. So now I got revenue showing up. And then now we're going to add another field for cost. So do new formula, call this cost. We're going to change it to float. Same type of thing. So case when the account type, it is single quote. It's called cost here on the budget data set. It's called cost and single quote. Then we want to bring over the amount, else zero end, right? And then let's validate to make sure that's a good formula. It is, and save. Now we could bring over our cost column, see that showing up. And then our last column that we're going to add to help join the data sets is we'll want an easy way to be able to see whether it's budget or whether it's actuals. So because this is the work breakdown structure data set, I could just add a field that will basically put budget on every row of this data set. So to do that, we'll add a new formula. We're just going to call this category because that's basically what it's the budget category. Is it actuals or budget, right? What category is it? So the field will be called category. We'll change this to a string field because it's just text. And we'll just put single quote. Every single thing in this data set, I'm going to call budget. If I could spell budget in single quotes. Validate it to make sure it's a good formula. Looks good. Save. Now I can add that over. So you see I have budget on every single row from this data set. So that will be helpful when we join them up later. So that's what we needed to do on our work breakdown structure data set. Now we're going to basically put those same formula fields on our transaction or our actuals data set. And that once I have the same fields on both, that will allow us to also join the two together. So let's save this and we will go to our profitability data set. So here's our profitability data set. I'll open that up. And now we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to go to our formula section and we're going to start adding in those same fields. So we'll do new formula. This is going to be revenue. Change this to float. This is case when the account type is equal to single quote income. Then we want the amount, else 0 end. And again, now that we're in the actuals, right? We're going to show actual revenue as positive. So I'll wrap this in a negative to do that. We'll validate it, make sure it's a good formula, and save. So now we'll start adding this over into our data set. Okay, so I got revenue showing up. Next, we are going to add in our cost formula. So new formula. This is going to be called cost. It's float. We're going to use a little bit more sophisticated case when formula here, just because we want to grab multiple account types and label them as cost. So to do that, we're going to go case when and the account type. And this time we're going to do in and open parentheses. So what this is saying is that when the account type is basically any of these options that we're going to comma separate, then we're going to do it. So basically we're saying if the account type is either cost of goods sold, end single quote, comma, or the other expense type, right? We have is expense, so comma, expense, single quote, expense, and then separate it again. And then we also have another account type for other expense. So single quote, other expense, close parentheses. Then bring me the amount, else 0 end. So basically the same thing. The only part that we did different is we use this case in so that we can list off multiple account types to apply this formula to. And we'll want to show actual costs as negatives, so we can kind of see, compare budget versus actual and see how that nets. And we'll hit validate to make sure it's a good formula and save. So now I can drag over my cost field. All right, that's showing up. And then same thing. Look, the last one to add now is our category, right? And that's a simple formula. We'll go new formula. This is going to be called our category. And this will be a string field because it's just text. And I'm just going to do a single quote. This is called actual, end single quote. Validate it, make sure it's a good formula, save, drag that over. Now you see every row in our actual data set is being tagged as actual so that we can leverage it here. So we've made the updates that we want. We got both of our data sets ready. I'm going to save this really quick. And now we're going to try to create our pivot table with these two data sets. So we can go ahead and hit create new workbook right from our actual data set. And here is where you see a button to connect the different data set. This is my actuals. I want to bring over my work breakdown structure or budget data set. So we'll hit this connect data set button, and then you can start searching for it. So here's my work breakdown structure data set. I'll click on that. And then once we have that, we can now link these together. So we can click on the three dots here to create a dataset link. It will try to already auto map based on name what it could find. So we're just going to bring over those remaining fields that we have. So we have our category. We got our project name. Now we want to bring over our revenue. So revenue for this data set, revenue for this one, we're mapping it, and then cost and cost, and we should be good. And then we can now hit the link dataset button to link these together. And then now we could proceed with trying to create our pivot table now that we've linked the data sets together. So we'll click on pivot table and we'll start dragging and creating our pivot table. So the first thing that we'll want is the project name in the rows. Then maybe we want to see the category next. And then, all right, sorry, so we want to bring over our category next. And then we want to bring over our revenue as a measure for numerical amount. And we'll bring over our cost. Okay. And we can create a calculated measure for profit. So click there. We're going to call this profit. And that's basically your revenue plus, because I'm showing my actual cost as a negative value. So plus our cost, and that would be our profit. So hit apply. And we'll save this workbook. So I'm just going to call this project profitability. Okay. And then again, to see if some of this data starts showing up, you may have to hit the refresh button here. Okay, so you can see it's bringing over our projects. It's bringing over, the budget lines, the actual lines, and we're starting to kind of create that picture. So we can add a few filters to this to be helpful. So maybe, again, we'll only want to filter for this year to date. So I'll click on the date field. We'll add an advanced filter for year, this fiscal year to date. Hit apply. And then refresh. And then again, you'll see here, right now, the data set's pulling over all kinds of actuals that wasn't tied to projects. Not particularly helpful if my goal here is to just show project-related stuff. So we could filter out this row right here that's causing a lot of noise and distortion. So we can click on the full name and also add a filter. And we can say we don't want, so change it from any of to none of, no value, move that over. So basically, I don't want to see it if there's not a project. Add that and refresh. And now I've removed that big line that was distorting it. So this is starting to take shape, starting to look good. We just have a couple more things we can add here. For this to be helpful, it'd be good to see some subtotaling. So if you click on the little sum icon here, we can set a subtotal at the bottom, and we can also set it on our columns and hit OK. So now you're starting to create a pivot table, and you're starting to get the value that you don't get in a saved search, right? Is you can start to drill down plus, right, and get more granular further and continue to see. You can start to add in other fields like, let's see, you could try adding maybe a transaction type field if you want to see what that looks like as you want to kind of continue to blow down through your data. So now you can see on the actuals, I can tell whether it's an invoice, an expense report, a journal entry, right? And you get to kind of start out at this collapse view and start drilling your way in to budget versus actual. And it's like, well, what are these actual values? You can just keep drilling until you get there. So I think this is one of the real benefits of a analytic workbook, or is that it allows you to group stuff. In a saved search, you can only group it one grouping level. Here you can kind of expand and collapse and blow and drill down into multiple layers and levels. Also, you see the ability to join two separate data sources together and start creating a report and a picture. In a saved search, you wouldn't be able to join a transaction saved search with a work breakdown structure and create this picture. So you get a little bit added functionality by being able to join to multiple data sources. The last thing that we'll add in here too that may be helpful is we can add some conditional formatting. So maybe I want to see anywhere where my profit is, less than zero. Basically, I'm losing money. And we can kind of highlight that. Uh, let's see. Oh, that's weird. If that just changed. You can use icons or colors or shapes. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. There's an icon button. There's also a color button here. I don't know. We'll try out both. And then refresh. So now you can see all like easily see the projects where you're losing money, making money, kind of drill down, maybe grab your attention a little bit easier. And then that's pretty much it. We could rename this, give it a name. Three, uh, project profitability pivot, and then we can save this workbook. So hopefully that shows a little bit more, advanced use case, but you can see how we basically demonstrated being able to take different data from different sources, crash them together, put them in a pivot table, and start to see how this could be value. Again, you can add these to your home dashboard, and I'll show later how we can even put this all on its own tab. But Charles, I'll pause there really quick and check back in to see if any questions or concerns.
Yep, there's one question. I just had it up. Two questions. Um, Michelle asks, can this be used to track open POs? Example, with the date the PO was created from when it was received into date of payment.
I believe so. I mean, if we were to try to do something like that, I would do a transaction data set. Then I would probably throw a filter for where the transaction type is equal to purchase orders. Then you could probably throw a filter for where the status is equal to open. And then once you have a data set filtered for just what you're looking for, then you can start doing all kinds of things with it, adding formula columns or, you should be able to do some things to kind of answer the questions that you're looking for there, Michelle.
And then Roy has a question. I haven't tried this, but can datasets, workbooks tap into the data from the inventory snapshot or inventory valuation, quote unquote, as update? Reports can do this, but save searches can't.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't tried that specifically. I would be curious, first step to see is if there's like an inventory data set already. I don't know. Doesn't look like it on first glance. So you would probably have to do something similar, Roy, where you would have a transaction data set, you would filter it down for the account type as inventory, and then you probably have to use some, case win formulas on like, if on or before a given date. However, you would basically try to do it in a safe search. I'm assuming you would be trying to apply the same tactics to your data set, if that helps.
I think that's it.
Hmm.
No other questions?
Okay.
Any other questions? No, I think we're
All
good.
good. All right. So then the last thing we're going to show is the ability to put it kind of all together in one place. So in NetSuite, you can set up what's called a center tab. So when things are on your home dashboard here, let's see. Right. So here was an example where we put our, profitability chart on our dashboard. You do run into a limit on how many things you can have on your home dashboard. I think you can only have up to like 10 saved searches, maybe 10. I don't know. You start to hit a limit where
It's
once
10.
it's 10. Okay. Yeah. And you'll know that once you see things grayed out, it means you can't add anymore. It's grayed out. So for what it's worth, that's kind of that. So what's helpful is if you wanted to have as many of these portlets and dashboards that you want, you can create what's called a center tab. So we created a center tab for KPIs and metrics here. And you can see when you set this up, you can specify as many portlets or the different things that you want. So I could add in 25 safe search things here, and there's no limit, as far as I know, on how many you want to add. So that's what we did. Once we created that, you see I have a KPI and metrics tab up here. You can build this out to have all of your different widgets and dashboards and things that you want in one centralized place. So here's my executive scorecard right in front of me. Here's my profit, gross profit analysis right in front of me. Here's my project profitability that we just set up right in front of me. So for your executives, you could literally build them a dashboard that shows them exactly what they need to see. This is all interactive right from here, right? It's all a click away from what they need to get to. I think is really helpful. And there's also a way that if you wanted this to be what they see when they log in, rather than their home dashboard, you can actually set that up in your preferences. I believe it's under appearance and landing page. Here you could select, um, you can select these different center tabs that are available. And if you save that, that means when they log in, it will take them, when you log in, it will take you right to this page rather than your home page. So little things like that kind of show how you can kind of incorporate and encompass all this stuff together into a meaningful kind of like central command to, have a pulse on the business and see where you need to drill down into and need to figure things out. But I think that's all we had here for today. Charles, we do have our last polling question. If you could launch that, I
Yep.
will bring that
Do,
back
do, do,
up.
do. Perfect. You guys see it? So there's only three options: accounting, finance, operations, or NetSuite IT. We took out sales.
A lot of accounting people and finance people showing up to the reports class, which makes a lot of sense.
Hmm. Looks like 21 for accounting and finance. NetSuite IT, about 5 or 6. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so that makes sense. So I'll end the poll.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. So yeah, everybody, I think that's helpful. I don't know if you want to maybe launch the survey to Charles and then we can go to Q&A.
Yep. And then the last survey, you do need to fill this out for CPE credits as well. This is extremely important. It's only 13 questions. They're all super quick, but it just helps us understand what's more important to you guys going forward. If it's helpful, if it's not, um, what materials you guys liked, etc. So if you can fill that out as well, and then any questions you guys have, feel free to either raise your hand or put it in the chat. Kind of open. It doesn't have to be on um, SuiteAnalytics. Obviously, it can be on anything. But yeah, feel free. I know the questions take a couple minutes, so
I would be curious too. Sorry for all the, we keep trying to keep it interactive. It's hard virtually, obviously, right? We're asking you to fill out these questions and do a survey, but maybe if you could still help in the chat, put a one or something, Charles, right? If you found like did you learn something today, or was a lot of this stuff repeat? Maybe you already knew. I'd be kind of curious how many people felt like they walked away at least learning something today that they didn't know. Maybe
it's
just put
good.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, one. Karen, good. Thanks, Trevor. Jeff, excellent.
All right.
Roy, appreciative as
Perfect.
always. But yeah, the end of the survey is really, really important. Because it just helps us understand what to put together for you guys on a go-forward basis. We do this every single month. Um, and we've had 19 of these, so we want to continue to give as much value as possible. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys. So yeah, if you can take a couple minutes and just finish that survey, and then what questions you guys have? No questions? Everyone's NetSuite gurus now?
It's a holiday week, man. I don't think I was ready for the class today as much as I normally am. So most people are probably like ready to start their weekend.
No questions? We're all good? We'll
It
wait
looks
for a
like
second.
there is one in the Q&A from Roy.
Okay, good. And we
Did
got
we
one
answer that
to,
one?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Roy, do
So
you want to come on? Here, I'll allow you to talk, Roy. Where are you on the thing? Mm, Okay, there you go. You
Hey guys.
can. Hey, what's up, Roy?
hey
Hey,
Roy.
yeah, what's up? Couple questions. So, do you know if the workbook portlets honor the home set preferences? You know, you where you reported by the period.
I don't know for sure if it does. It seems like it does. The way that I validate is I just like I showed you, I try to make sure I could tie out stuff to like an income statement or another report. So that's how I get comfort that it's, right. But I believe you could also access the accounting period field, in those data sets as well. So if you wanted to kind of use that to be your driver for filtering and stuff, you should be able to access that field as well. But I normally just go off of date and it's usually worked out. I do think you could run into a problem if you allow date, period mismatches. So it's a good thing to think about and be aware of, but uh, I don't know for sure. You just have to try it out, Roy.
Okay, that makes sense. I haven't tried it out myself. And the other question is around, on your dashboard, you can view the portlet date settings. What do you have currently set on yours?
Let me see. I don't actually know. So are you saying if I go to set preferences, um,
So go to your dashboard.
go to
So you,
my actual dashboard?
yeah,
Okay.
and then I think it's under, was it personalize?
Okay.
Yeah. Mm,
Or like on the actual widgets themselves.
No, this is view portlet date settings. Maybe this is a, I'm sorry, this may be a Chrome add-in that I have. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay. No, you're good. I thought I saw there's something here. If I go back to preferences and appearance, you can do some stuff here about like your chart themes. Like you can try different things here and you can kind of control some of these at more of a, setting level.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm not sure specifically the specific part you were trying to get answered.
Yeah, it would have been under the analytics
Okay,
right there.
analytics.
Yeah.
Oh, here, KPI scorecard with period specific consolidation. I don't know. Yeah,
No,
you
it's
kind
the
of have to
top.
play around with some of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the top left one. So mine's personally set to, I think, financial.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So so we push dashboards at my company,
Mm-hmm.
which means a lot of the things that you set on your dashboard means an administrator or someone with that role that has capability of pushing a dashboard could potentially push that same workbook portlet, which is amazing, especially if you have a large audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I was just asking the question, like, what did you have set for this presentation? So that answers my question.
I generally have never because best practice, well, I don't know about best practice, but for most of my stakeholders, we kind of hate running reports by period because if you wanted to literally be able to see like what's my profitability on the 29th of May, you can't really get there with period, right? It's just always a number for the period of May. Um, so generally I like to be able to run reports by date and not just period. But again, there's a caveat there that if you got people booking transactions and putting different dates, going to different periods, it could create a whole mess. So there's actually a setting in NetSuite that allows you to not allow date period mismatches.
Hmm.
That's typically what we found is best practice, but I think it's really more of just a preference.
Cool. Thank you. Good
hmm
job, guys.
Thanks, Roy. Appreciate
Appreciate you,
you.
Roy.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? Anything, top of mind? Doesn't have to be on necessarily this, but
If not, then we'll kind of wrap up here. If you haven't filled out the survey, please do. We got like 22 people. Obviously, if you're a Scale North employee, you don't need to fill that out, obviously. But um, yeah, if you can, that'd be great. I think Dean's trying to pull up his Claude. We
I
can still
figured
see
just
your
as a bonus for the end, I may show in a little bonus material if we don't got any questions.
ooh, a little AI bonus. Being
Little
on
AI,
top.
but I think Charles, you said we have to have AI on every class, so I'm like maybe we'll
Every
show
single one,
something.
man.
So let me see if I can if I'm connected. So settings, connector. So let's connect. Mm.
I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll.
Okay. All right. So I just connected our Claude to this NetSuite instance. There's a Suite app or something that just came out. Let's see. Change role. Trying to remember where you find it. Yeah, AI companion tools. There's this AI companion library. So if you install this Suite app, I believe it's free. Then they have like hundreds of canned prompts that you can already just launch in Claude to start interacting with your NetSuite data. Um, you can filter down by category. You see here there's over 100 prompts. And if one's interesting to you, you just hit use prompt and send to Claude, and it will basically fill it in for you. And then you just run it. And now it's going to go out and it's going to go into my NetSuite and try to start building me a profitability analysis real time. So just kind of a cool thing that just got released. I haven't totally played around with it a bunch, but I just thought it might be worth showing people who are kind of experimenting with Claude in their NetSuite. Um, so, you kind of go through some of this stuff. We could skip that. You could look at which period do you want for the income statement. And then it's just going to go through and build this all out. So just thought I'd show that really quick again. If we got any questions, otherwise we'll look to wrap here soon, Charles.
Roy asked, can the MCP connector work with the workbooks data sets you built today?
I think actually that's how it works. I think one of my technical team members told me that I think it's actually looking at data sets to pull a lot of this information. So I think it kind of indirectly is my understanding, but I don't know for sure. But do you see how it literally just pulled in my numbers and is trying to basically create an analysis and what's driving profit? I mean, it's crazy, right? Like it's pretty helpful that you can go try these different prompts and see which ones are, kind of are going to help you the most. They already have for AR, who's the top 10 customers, and a lot of these things have already been kind of pre-canned, so should help. But with that being there, that's kind of all we had to show today. Charles, if there's no Q&As, pretty light today.
Nope.
Normally we get quite a few questions, but all good.
Good stuff, guys. Well, we will let you guys go. That's it. Thanks for coming through. Next month, I'm not sure if we have our topic yet, right, Dean? Let me see.
No, I gotta double check. But it's TBD and the date to TBD, but we normally get them out here pretty soon after we finish this one. So probably next week or so, we'll be getting the registration out for next month's class.
Excellent. If we can just give a thumbs up or a thank you to Dean for putting this together. Always takes extra work. This is not his main job to do master classes. He does it as help to the ecosystem. So appreciate you guys. If you can give a thank you or a thumbs up. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate you as always, man. Other than that, if you don't have any questions, you guys have a great weekend.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks, everybody. Have a
Have a
good
good one,
one.
guys. All right. God bless. Bye-bye.
See ya.